This week's Game Pass review will be Overcooked 2. Because I played this entire game co-op, I've actually got my wife to come in to help me do this review so we can both get opinions on the game. Hope you enjoy.
In Overcooked 2, the Onion Kingdom is in trouble again, this time under threat from the Unbread, an army of cute-looking mouldy bread. These undead loaves rose from their graves when the Onion King read a cursed recipe from the Necronomicon, and it is up to our trusty chefs to save the Empire once again. The story is told in sections by the Onion King after completing each world. For me, the return into the castle after every chapter felt very grinding. Although it wasn't out of the way in terms of location, it just felt completely unnecessary to have to read more via speech bubbles about the situation before being able to progress to the next chapter.
I feel the same, and also it kind of feels like an afterthought to me. Even though the story isn't that important in a game like Overcooked, I think the Onion King and the Unbread have their own unique charm, and with the story being told through text, it falls flat and doesn't portray their charisma. I feel like these characters weren't involved in the story as much as they should have been, and I think that not by using these characters visually and audibly to tell the story, they missed a big opportunity to make this mode more engaging. The levels in Overcooked 2 aren't as similar to one another as you would think. Given they all take place in the kitchen, there's a great amount of variety surrounding the levels because they're based on different surroundings depending on the dishes you are making. To compare, if you visit a Japanese sushi bar in real life, the kitchen would be completely different to a Maki's kitchen, and this is portrayed within the game. Unlike other games when real world landmarks are used to indicate locations, Overcooked delivers this through kitchen culture, which is really impressive in itself, being confined to a single room yet instantly recognising the country it's based on.
As with the levels, the world hub is aesthetically pleasing, with a cutesy art style that is very fitting for the game. Unfortunately, that is where the goodness of the hub ends in my opinion. I have found travel in the overworld to be a very tedious experience. As mentioned earlier, the travelling back to the castle after each chapter was unnecessary in itself, but there is also no indication as to where the next chapter will pop up, leaving you to drive around looking for the location. Additionally, some of them require you to locate a switch in order to activate a ramp to reach the area. With these switches just being randomly placed around the world and not hidden behind any puzzles or side quest style levels, it just feels very inconvenient rather than adding more fun to the hub, which I think was their aim. The visuals in Overcooked 2 are charming to say the least. The characters are chibi styled people/animals with small bodies and big heads, which makes them very cute. The kitchen has a very basic layout, with all of the sides, cookers and sinks being square shaped, but in a game like this, the blockiness is much needed as to not add any more chaos into an already frantic atmosphere. Although it is personal preference when it comes to visuals, I can't see anybody being disappointed with the game's style of choice.
The music in this game doesn't do much out of the ordinary, but it is hard to be cross when it's so cheerful and most have a feel good vibe to them. All of the songs are soft tunes that are solely instrumental, so don't be surprised if you find yourself subconsciously swaying to the melodies. Although the music isn't spectacular, they certainly add to the atmosphere in the game, particularly the spooky songs that play when speaking of the Unbread.
The standout part of the game is definitely the gameplay. With its puzzle/party game style, it takes Overcooked 2 in a unique direction and is unlike any other game I have ever played. The aim is to successfully prepare specified ingredients, cook them and serve the final meals within a time limit, and doing this in the correct ticket order gives the player a tip streak, naturally giving them more points. With the game encouraging co-op, this is harder than it sounds, as you only have access to certain areas within the kitchen, while your teammate can only access the other part. This alone makes it very chaotic to try and make the dishes, and this is before the game even turns up the heat and throws more obstacles in your path. Communication is definitely key in this game.
I would definitely recommend playing 2 to 4 player co-op. Not only does it enhance the fun, but I feel like playing alone actually hinders the whole experience. Having to communicate with other players and being assigned to certain job roles such as dressing the food, cooking the food, washing dishes and so on are the core mechanics that make Overcooked as successful as it is. Not only having to do these tasks in single player limits your options to the point when you feel like you're playing a completely different game. I would like to say otherwise, but this game is strictly multiplayer in my eyes.
The level design in this game contributes a lot to the difficulty. Obstacles such as fire hazards physically blocking your path, collapsing floors meaning you have to wait for their return, and remote control platforms that are controlled solely by your teammate are just a few. These barriers make it even harder to complete meals, especially in ticket order. For example, a dish could be in the oven that you then can't get to due to a collapsed floor, meaning it would burn and you'll have to start over. For me, this all adds to the fun of the game as you adapt to the ever-changing circumstances and plan dishes in advance with your teammate so that you do not suffer this fate.
Apart from completing the story, the progression comes in trying to achieve stars to unlock both additional characters and the next world. Unlocking characters doesn't add anything to the gameplay, but it is extremely addictive to try and complete each level with top ranks to unlock as many characters as possible, and of course, bragging rights. I would say it took us around 8 to 10 hours to complete the campaign, bearing in mind we were trying to get top marks in each level before moving on to the next. There is a great amount of replay value being added to play any level at any time via couch co-op and online, and this is not including the fact that Team 17 and Ghost Town Games are very generous when it comes to seasonal events as a free update to further add to each level. Overall, Overcooked 2 has a disappointing world hub and story, and isn't the best for single player. However, it is tons of fun with a variety of levels and a good amount of content and an excellent multiplayer.
This game is all about communication, which is a great basis for a multiplayer game. Yes, it can cause arguments, but you know what they say, if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen.
Our final verdict of Overcooked 2 is it's absolutely worth a download. If you have friends to play with, you're going to have a lot of fun with this game. If you enjoyed this video, then check out our other videos, or why not consider giving our channel a subscribe, as it really does help the channel go a long way. Thanks for listening guys, I'll see you in the next video. GG's.